Welcome to the Hammer Territory Podcast. My name is Shawn Coleman. For the second straight night, it is a pleasure to be back with you. Hope you're having a great Wednesday evening. And of course, hope to each and everyone listening that each of you and your families have a safe and happy 4th of July. But you know what? It's nice to, be able to be back with Stephen Tolbert. And Stephen, it finally happened. We're able to talk about a Braves win. How are you this evening, sir?
Yeah, what's up, Shawn? Yeah, man. A win is always better than a loss. Of course, it's so much more fun to do these after a win. It's kind of more of the same that we've seen. Um, when this team gets elite pitching, from a starter and then gets a shutdown performance from the bullpen, then yeah, the wins usually come pretty easily. It's when those things don't happen and the offense has to carry some of the load that things get dicey. But tonight, like tonight, I mean, Chris Sale dominated, bullpen looked great, offense did just enough, and yeah, it's a W in a tied series.
Absolutely. And this is all that we could ask for, right? You would have loved to have had an offensive explosion. The Braves, overall did have, a decent offensive night, 10 hits, 3 runs. They were able to, only 2 extra base hits, but 3 for 8 with runners in scoring position. Of course, the big hit was the 2 out run scoring 2 out 2 run double by Austin Riley, but we'll get into that in just a moment. The story of tonight, when we talk about bounce back performance, on Tuesday night, the story was the shaky performance of Ronaldo Lopez in the bullpen. But on Wednesday night, the story was Chris Sale, 6 innings pitched, 9 strikeouts, only 3 hits allowed. But of course, also AJ Minter, Joe Jimenez, Raisel Iglesias, only 1 hit allowed between those three. After a shaky performance on Tuesday, both Sale and the bullpen were dominant for the Braves. It was a nice bounce back performance for what is the strength of this team right now.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that Chris Sale has been the best player on the team this year. Um, Marcelo Zuna, Ronaldo Lopez probably both had a claim at that title at one point, but both of those guys have kind of fallen off here recently. Max Fried kind of had that rough start, and then he's been great. But like from pretty much the beginning of the year, I think Chris Sale has been the best player on the team. And tonight he was just phenomenal again. I mean, 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, looked nasty. The 1 run he gave up was a double right down the line. Another inch and that ball's foul, and he probably gets out of that inning. So, he's just been unbelievable. And I'm sure he'll be frustrated that he only went 6 innings. He's been going pretty deep into games here recently. The Giants are a good offense. They actually do work the count quite a bit. They foul off a lot of pitches. They did the same thing to Ronaldo last night, who had 100 pitches, by the 5th inning. So credit to them for that. But yeah, Sale's just been unbelievable. And I don't know what else you can say about him. 9 more strikeouts tonight. The strikeout stuff has been unbelievable. His stuff just in general has been lights out, really at a level that we haven't seen since, he was one of the best pitchers in baseball, 6, 7 years ago. And then the bullpen, AJ Minter came back, looked good. Joe Jimenez looked good. Raisel Iglesias looked good. I mean, it's just a really nice, really well pitched game. And listen, until the offense gets back to scoring 5, 6 runs a night, this is what they need. They need their pitching staff to dominate, especially when you have Sale on the mound. You really don't want to lose these Chris Sale games. So, yeah, great job by them. Great job by Sale. Great job by the bullpen, and see if you can get a series win tomorrow.
From our own Scott Coleman, just a few ranks of where Sale is right now in the National League among NL pitchers. He's first in WAR, wins above replacement, first in wins, second in K percentage, third in walk percentage, first in K2 walk percentage, fourth in ERA, first in FIP, first in FIP, first in expected FIP. So I want to put this into perspective because I think it definitely should be, considering the fact that we just had all-star starters announced for the position players this evening. Folks, when we talk about Chris Sale has been spectacular and arguably has been the best Brave this season, it's not just amongst the performances of the Braves this year. We're literally talking about Chris Sale being near or at the level that he was when he was at his peak. He probably was a bit more dominant back then, but the ranks of where he is in the National League, that's where he routinely was back in the middle of last decade when he was arguably the best pitcher in the American League. And Stephen, I also bring that to light because I think that Chris Sale right now, we're past the midway point of the season. I think that Chris Sale has just as valid of a claim to be not only the NL starter on the mound in the All-Star game, but also I think that you could say he's the favorite for the NL Cy Young Award, which is just an incredible overall value for what the Braves got him for. But just want to really put into perspective the performance that Chris Sale has put on and the consistency that he's put on this season.
Yeah, I mean, just as an example, in 2014, that was 10 years ago when he was with the White Sox and very easily considered either the best pitcher or one of the two or three best pitchers on planet Earth. But in 2014, he struck out 10.76 runners, or a K per nine of 10.76. In 2024, 10 years later, he has a K per nine of 11.34. So he's actually striking out more batters per 9 innings in 2024 than he did in 2014, 10 years ago when he was the best, two or three best pitchers on the planet. So that's, you look at the velocity in 2014, he averaged 94.9 miles an hour on his fastball. You look at his velocity this year in 2024, 94.9 miles an hour, exact same velocity. I mean, his stuff really hasn't diminished at all. And this is what we did talk about a lot, is that a lot of his injuries, A, they weren't arm injuries, they were kind of freak injuries. And B, the only upside to those injuries was his arm doesn't have a lot of miles on it. I mean, for a guy who has been in the league as long as he has, because he hasn't pitched a lot in the last 5 years, his arm is relatively fresh. And you can see it with the stuff. I mean, the strikeout stuff is as good as it's ever been. He's only had a few seasons better than in terms of strikeouts than what he's doing now. The walks are way down. He's walking 1.6 per nine, which is fantastic. The velocity is good. The home run ball has been very light. He's almost at a 50% ground ball rate, which probably goes a little underrated for him. I mean, he's just been unbelievable. He's just been unbelievable. And, we got to keep him healthy. The Braves have done a really good job of giving him extra rest. Brian Snitker said in his press conference yesterday that that's not something they're going to be able to do all year long, but anytime they can do it, they will do it. And, obviously with the All-Star break coming up, he's probably going to be on the team, which is not my favorite thing, honestly. I mean, I love that the guys get, acknowledged for the first half they've had. I would much rather all the Braves players just get rest and be able to go home and get off their feet, especially the pitchers. I really don't want Chris Sale pitching in the All-Star game, if I'm being honest, but he'll get a long break there, hopefully, and then, back to the second half. But yeah, it's been unbelievable. And this first half, he might get one more start in the first half, but this first half could not have gone better. The Braves could not have asked for more. He has literally been the best player on the team since day one, and good for him, man. He's a fighter. He cares a lot. You can tell. And it's just been an unbelievable pickup.
Absolutely. And it's awesome to see. When we talk about, we're in what you would consider to be at times an era of offense. So it's hard to really say that with the how, the performance of the balls in play, can be at times in recent years. But I will say this, as much as I enjoy home runs, as much as I enjoy all out offense, especially being a Braves fan, there's something to be said about, a pitcher each and every time he goes out on the mound being dominant. And that's the feeling that you get with Chris Sale, and that's the type of performance that you hope is here for the playoffs, because that type of performance from a pitcher can really swing a playoff series. And with how Max Fried is going, the Braves could potentially have multiple sources of that type of performance come October. But speaking of someone who's consistently delivering, I'm not saying that Austin Riley at the plate is to the level of what Chris Sale's doing on the mound, but it's hard to deny there are many hitters in baseball right now better than Austin Riley. Again, the 2-out, 2-run double that basically was the winning hit in this game. He had another at bat where he made very solid contact. It just seems like every game, multiple balls in play over 100 miles an hour. When you look at him at the plate now, I put some numbers up earlier today, Stephen. For instance, I talked about June 14th really being the time when Austin Riley usually takes off. Before June 14th this year, he had a ground ball percentage of 43% and a barrel percentage of around 10%. Since June 14th, he has a ground ball percentage of 28% and he has a barrel percentage of 23%. He's getting the ball in the air, he's making hard contact. He truly looks like one of the best hitters in the game, and each and every game that he's out there, he arguably is the best offensive performer, and that's nice to see, especially with Marcelo Zuna having trailed off a bit.
Him and Kelnick have kind of been the guys going here recently, and Murphy really. Kelnick's even kind of slowed down a little bit. He was over 4 tonight, but yeah, I mean Austin's been unbelievable here in this last probably 2 weeks, and he needs some help. Tonight it was nice to see because the Braves got something we don't see a lot. They got 4 hits in a row. Ozuna hit that single. Olson followed with a single. Then Riley doubled both the guys home, and then d'Arnaud actually followed with another single that and Riley got thrown out of the plate, which I didn't love that call. I thought he was called safe on the field. I didn't really see enough there to overturn that. I thought that was a bad overturn. I thought that should have been a run for the Braves, but that kind of stringing 4 hits together, again, that's not something we've seen a lot this year. The Braves, we talked about it last night, but the Braves have so many guys, usually on a nightly basis, who are cold that it's tough to string together 4 hits in a row because inevitably you run into somebody that's not doing very well. So it was nice to see that. The power wasn't really there tonight. Like you said, only 2 extra base hits. That one by Austin off the wall was the big one. No homers, but they did just enough. I mean, when you only give up 1 run, the offense doesn't have to do a lot. So, Adam Duvall got 3 hits in the night, in the game. One was a swinging bunt and one was a kind of a flare shot off the bat, but maybe that'll get him going. Sometimes it's those really cheap kind of lucky hits that maybe get you going, that you feel like, all right, my luck's turning around and gives you some confidence on the plate. Can't tell you how many times I've seen that where a guy gets a blue pit or a broken bat hit and that ends up turning him around. So maybe that's the start of something for Adam. That would be huge. I think we should be getting, well, Laureano actually got updated to an oblique injury, so maybe not. I was thinking we might get Laureano back soon, but maybe not on that either. But yeah, so if Adam wants to get going, that'd be great too. But yeah, Austin's been the man for the last few weeks, and he needs some help. He needs some guys around him to start hitting the way he is.
Absolutely. And, looking at Adam Duvall, the outfield situation, Kelnick has been great. Of course, again, it's going to be hard to expect Kelnick to continue at the level that he is. I don't think that he's north of 1,000 OPS 150 WRC plus type hitter, but feel that he could be above average moving forward. But you talk about Adam Duvall, the big hit on Saturday to win the game, against the Pirates, the big hit tonight to give the Braves the lead. It's a bit of a reminder that Adam Duvall can be productive when he's at the plate. He's always been, at least in a Braves uniform, he's always been pretty streaky. But if you can get a hot streak from him, it certainly could help out. And we also, Michael Harris II, I still think we're multiple weeks away from when he's going to be back. But the thing that I'll say is that I definitely think that we're kind of seeing, a bit of an uptick in baseball activity for him. Again, multiple moves may be needed at the trade deadline. But if you can have a productive Adam Duvall, Michael Harris, and Jared Kelnick, I think could definitely make up 3 parts of a somewhat productive outfield that can also be there to deliver value in the playoffs.
Well, the weird thing about Adam this year has been he's just been absolutely brutal against right-handed pitching. And that was the other encouraging thing tonight is all the hits came off right-handed pitching. And that's unusual for Adam. Adam's not typically been a platoon player for his career in terms of his splits, even though he is used as a platoon player. If you look at his actual numbers for his career, he's actually pretty dead even in terms of right versus left for his career. So that's what's made this year so unusual. Now Adam's 35 years old and Father Time is undefeated. So, that matters here too. But there was no logical reason why Adam should continue to hit at that level that he's hit so far against right-handed pitching. There's just nothing in his history that suggests that's his real talent level. So it'd be unbelievable. It'd be unbelievably helpful if he could turn it around, become a productive member of the lineup. Those are few and far between, for the Braves right now. Any sort of boost that the offense could get would be tremendously helpful. I say if I'm Alex, I'm still going to get an outfielder at the deadline. I don't care. Adam could get red hot. I'm still going to do it because A, you don't know what you're going to get from Michael when he gets back. He wasn't having the best season before he got hurt anyways. So, I still think you need another left-hander. Somebody can help you with right-handed pitching. Even if Adam gets hot, I would still go get somebody. But if Adam gets hot, it certainly helps things because, the Braves just need more. They need more production up and down their lineup. They just have so many, even tonight. I mean, they had opportunities to extend the lead. It seemed like every time they got a rally going, it was Forrest Wall or Zach Short up at the plate, and it typically didn't go well. And that's kind of what you expect when it's Forrest Wall and Zach Short. So the lineup still needs more depth. I think Alex still needs to go get one, if not two pieces. I would love to get two. I would love to get an infielder and an outfielder who can hit a decent amount just to help out with shortstop and left field. But we'll see what they do. But yeah, Adam, coming back around would be tremendously helpful. And he had that big double tonight, and then a couple of kind of flare hits that maybe will get him going. And we'll see if he can kind of continue that on.
Absolutely. And, of course, there's the continued, storyline of Orlando Arcia for the lineup, dealing with the abscess tooth that he had. You hope that maybe he'll be back in the lineup tomorrow, but I'm sure the Braves are going to take their time making sure that he's good. But on a positive note, beyond Michael Harris II on the injury front, Wednesday also brought with it, Stephen, the return of AJ Smith-Shawver, who had been out for, I believe, a little over 6 weeks, 6 weeks to 2 months, with an oblique injury. He looked at incredible in his lone performance at the major league level this season. I believe it was the Cubs against the Cubs earlier this year. But the point that I'm getting at is him returning is definitely a good sign. You've got Ian Anderson. We've talked a bit about this before. You got AJ Smith-Shawver, who's back, in the minors. Ian Anderson working his way back from an extended absence due to Tommy John surgery. Hurston Waldrop waiting to see kind of how, he is going to be. I'm not saying that any of these pitchers you should in any way, shape, or form put value on them emerging as some type of valuable arm at the major league level for the Braves during the stretch run. But what I am saying is that especially with what we're seeing from Ronaldo Lopez here, you want to manage the inning of Chris Sale, Charlie Morton, Max Fried. It's good to have that young depth back, and I do think that we could see a stretch of potential good performances from an AJ Smith-Shawver or Ian Anderson, maybe both. That depth could certainly come into play for the Braves in the second half of the season as they continue to look to manage innings.
Yeah. AJ pitched in Rome tonight for his first start in, I think, about 6 weeks. I don't exactly remember when the injury happened. I think it was in the middle of May. So about 5 or 6 weeks, I think AJ was out. He pitched for Rome tonight. I think I looked at it earlier. I think he went 2 innings and struck out four. So a pretty good start, in terms of a rehab. I imagine they're going to take it pretty slow with the oblique injury. So we'll see how quickly he can get up. I mean, that would be huge, especially if you want to continue to give guys like Sale and Lopez extra rest. Having another option as a fifth or a sixth man in the rotation would be huge. Just having more depth in case you get an injury. I mean, all that stuff matters. I'd be surprised if he was used as any sort of trade bait. I know this time of year, when you start talking about prospects, it's kind of a dual thing. You're talking about guys who could potentially come up and help you, and then also guys who could potentially be in deals. I don't think AJ is going to be in a deal. I think AJ's primary role is going to be, as a depth piece for the rotation, if not just in the rotation when he gets back. So, yeah, really good to have him back. AJ Minter came back, had a really good outing, and I think this was his first outing since he came back off the IL. So it's good to have him back. Got both AJs back in, pitching. Yeah, just slowly getting that depth back matters a lot. We're getting into July and then August. Guys start wearing down a little bit. Your depth gets tested a lot in these months. So getting your, guys who have been banged up and hurt, getting them back in the lineups, getting them, in rehabs assignments is big. It's a real help for your depth.
Absolutely. And the great thing about it is that depth once again is something that the Braves have consistently, had to, kind of shuffle their way through over the past couple of seasons so that they can get some reliable arms back. Again, not looking to see AJ Smith-Shawver or Ian Anderson all of a sudden become an option for the postseason. If they want to, that'd be great. But the point is that you're definitely hoping that they can emerge as depth that the Braves can use in selective ways to keep the arms fresh. Of course, in baseball in general on Wednesday, Stephen, the 2024 NL and AL position starters were announced for the All-Star game. And what stands out about the National League, Stephen, is you got multiple Brewers, you got multiple Padres, you got multiple Phillies who are starting the game. Former Brave William Contreras is going to be starting at catcher. Congratulations to him. Of course, Shohei Ohtani at the DH position. And a lot of these players are, in their first, second, or third, All-Star selection. So some fresh faces when it comes to this lineup. But a big reason why there are fresh faces is because there's not a Brave in there. And that's what stands out. There's not a Brave, I believe, for the first time since at least 2017 that we haven't had a starter in the All-Star game. Just your thoughts on the All-Star starters. Some deserving names there for sure, but also some surprising names in there, especially in the National League.
Yeah, I mean, from the Braves perspective, I don't really think they deserve. I think you and I talked about this. I don't really think they deserve to have anyone in. I mean, Ozuna's the only guy you could probably make a case for. But Shohei, Shohei's been a monster this year, and even if Shohei wasn't a monster this year, he'd probably still have won the vote. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to be completely honest. Even when the Braves had half the roster last year, I didn't watch the All Star. The All Star game is not an event. Tailored for me. I would say I'm much more in the camp of I would rather players get the rest. It's I always enjoy, of course, when players get recognition for having great seasons. But an actual game has always felt a little unnecessary to me. But good for the guys who made it. The Phillies are of course loaded. I think their entire infield is on the All Star. Is going to be on the All Star team. Harper, Turner, Stott, and Alex Bohm. They've had great years. I mean, that's how it should be. If you have great first half, and really that's another thing about the All Star game is it's really not who had the best year; it's who has the best April, May, and first half of June. Really, I mean, that's if we're being honest. That's guys who are second half players often get kind of the shaft when it comes to All Star recognition, but it is what it is. It's a fun night for a lot of people. People get recognized for the first halves they've had, whatever. Um, but the fact that most of the Braves are going to be home getting rest, I'm going to be honest, it's not it doesn't exactly break my heart that the Braves are going to have a lot of guys who are going to be able to go home and get 4 days of rest. So hopefully, you come back strong for the second half and make a push for this thing. But yeah, credit to all the guys who've been voted in as starters. Obviously, great years, and there'll be a lot of guys added as reserves and injury replacements. And I'm guessing the Braves will have a couple of guys. I don't think they're just going to get shut out completely, especially on the pitching side. So, but yeah, congrats to all the guys who made it.
Absolutely. And wait to see, of course, the pitching announcements. But to your point, a lot of deserving folks in the All-Star game, not to take anything away from them, just, definitely some, surprising names from who you would have thought would have been there to start the season, but all certainly deserving. So, Stephen, now that, attention turns to Thursday, of course, everybody's going to be, enjoying cookouts and being outside, fireworks, what may have you. Again, hope everybody has a happy and healthy 4th of July. But for the Braves, a big opportunity. The Charlie Morton on the mound for the Braves, coming off an excellent start in his last outing, facing Logan Webb, who in his career, a 3.05 ERA and a little over 38 innings against the Braves, a 2-1 record. He's pitched pretty well against Atlanta. Typically now is one of the better pitchers in the National League. Key that I'm getting at is that once again, the Braves are going to be facing a tough pitcher. If they could get some runs early, that would be great to give Morton a lead to work with. But the big thing is that the Braves are once again going to have to find a way to create and convert run scoring opportunity in a game where opportunities may be a premium in a pretty good pitching matchup.
Yeah, I mean, look, in terms of previewing the game, my guess is it's going to go something like, if the Braves pitching gives up 3 runs or fewer, the Braves have a pretty good chance to win the game. If the Braves pitching gives up more than 3 runs, then they're probably going to lose the game. And I say that because that's just how Braves baseball has been played in 2024 so far. I tweeted this out the other day. The last time the Braves won a game where the other team scored more than 3 runs was on April 17th against the Astros. It's been almost 3 months since the Braves won a game when the other team scored more than 3 runs. So, I have a feeling that's how it's going to go tomorrow. If Charlie has a good night, the bullpen has a good night, and they can hold them to 1 or 2 runs, maybe 3 runs, then the Braves got a chance to win. I think if Charlie has kind of an up and down night, the bullpen, they give up 4 or 5 runs, that's probably going to be a loss, unless the offense can kind of turn a corner. But like you said, against Logan Webb, one of the best pitchers in baseball, and I always want to call him Brandon Webb. I know why, because they're both sinker ball guys, but for some reason I can't ever say Logan Webb without having to stop and not say Brandon. But anyway, one of the best pitchers in baseball. The Giants bullpen is very good. So if my guess is the offense is not going to have a great game tomorrow, and it's going to come down to how well Charlie pitches and how well the bullpen pitches to see who's going to win the series.
Absolutely. And Brad Rowland and Scott Coleman will be back with you to recap the series later this week. And also, of course, talk about the start of the big series over the weekend, the Phillies and the Braves at Truist Park. But the main thing is that, again, it's going to be a fun time, always enjoyable to get baseball on the 4th of July together. So if you're going to the game, watching the game, again, have a safe Independence Day. Stephen, the same to you. Hopefully there will be some fireworks on the field from the Braves offense, but wherever you are, make sure that you enjoy a good fireworks show with your friends and family. But Stephen, I hope you have a great one. Always a pleasure talking with you, man. Anything else as we wrap up this edition of the Hammer Territory podcast?
No, just one more note, and Brad mentioned this earlier. It's actually a night game tomorrow, which also threw me off. I just assumed it would be a day game because it's the 4th of July, but the Braves are actually playing a night game tomorrow. So just a heads up if you did not know that. It's like a 7:10 start, like a normal night game start. So it's also getaway day for the Giants, which is another surprising reason. It's a night game. But yeah, if you didn't know, the Braves actually play tomorrow night, not tomorrow afternoon.
Yep, and I'm already hearing the fireworks where I'm at start to pop outside my house. So it's starting to have fun. But Stephen, always a pleasure with you, sir. You have a great holiday, and we'll talk to you again soon. All right, man.
All right, thanks, Shawn.
All right. For Stephen Tolbert at B_Outliers on Twitter/X, my name's Shawn Coleman. You can find me at StatsSAC. Until next time, go Braves. We'll talk to you again soon here on the Hammer Territory podcast, part of the Foul Territory family of podcasts. Talk to you soon.